like I'm like playing in the middle of the song, dressed up as a gorilla, and a Nerf dart like flies over my shoulder.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm doing this with you.
What's up, everybody? It is the STUMIN podcast, episode 5. I hope you had a chance to listen to episode 4. If not, go back.
Fantastic episode.
Danny told me
I will listen
the
to it.
craziest story.
Unreal.
Scott still hasn't even. We invited Scott Dever, our current kidsman, soon to be kind of both right now, executive pastor, to join us today.
Man.
And he tells us right before we start, he has listened to 0 episodes. I don't know how I ffeel about that. Like, do we ask him to leave?
I mean, I listened to one episode where you guys were talking about showers or something like that.
Don't go.
Because that's all we talk about here.
So we had one episode of all of our free space, Danny, and then Scott has to come and clutter it up again.
Yeah, there's a lot less space now.
Today, we are going to be talking just about church life. All of us have been around church world and ministry for a long time, so we're going to share some funny or maybe even cringy stories about church life. Because, hey, you got to be able to laugh at yourselves sometimes, and every church has its funny quirks and goofy moments. And then we're going to talk to young people that might be considering ministry, and maybe that's you. Or maybe you've never considered ministry before. Maybe today will be the first time you ask yourself the question, is God preparing me for the work of ministry? So we'll be going over that. But first of all, hopefully, I hope these are as enjoyable as I anticipate them to be. Who wants to start off with their cringy, funny church story? Danny looks ready to go.
I've got a couple, but I can
tell
I can
one.
Start
We
with
can
one. We'll see where we're at.
Man. All right.
bounce
Yeah.
around on it for sure.
Okay, so this was
Hold on. This is a true story, correct?
yes,
I just
it's,
okay.
it's very
Just
true.
wanted
Have the names been changed?
So this
Yeah.
this was like pretty early on in my career of leading worship, and in the
So that's
student-
like 3 to 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So this was in our youth ministry at the church that I was leading at. And I was like, one of the things I was doing was leading, like I was in charge of worship at the youth ministry at like the middle school and high school ministry. And the youth pastor, he's like super big into illustrations. Like that's like, he's a big illustration guy. Like he kind of goes all out with it. And so this was like, if you've been in ministry, you've probably seen this concept like on social media of like the distractions in worship. So he wanted to do like, he was preaching on distractions. And he wanted to, as an illustration, for us to have distractions during a worship song. And me being like a young, like fairly immature, like decently immature guy, I was like, all right, I'm all about it.
You're like, game on.
Let's do it. And we also had like 4 or 5
You're like, I got a can of
interns.
pepper spray. Let's do this thing.
We also had like 4 or 5 interns who were all like a bunch of college students. So we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And so what happened was it was all planned out, sort of like what was planned out was on the third, like we had 3 songs in the set list. On the third song, we're going to have like this, like the distractions going off.
Whoa, he let it get that far into worship and then was like, let's blow this thing up.
Yeah.
That's
And
so weird.
It gets worse. So what happened was to like transition into it, we needed something to like transition us. And so, you know, when you're in like ministry, when you're planning services and you're like, we need a transition, what a lot of people will just go right away to is prayer. Like, we'll have a prayer moment and then that'll transition us into this. So I was playing on the keyboard and I was wearing, like I had a gorilla costume that was like a onesie. So I was like wearing it with like the top like unzipped and it was like behind me, you know, so you couldn't see it. And so like we played through the first 2 songs. And then the youth pastor leads like it's just a general prayer moment in between, like going into the third song. But that's when we kind of transition. So like I put on this gorilla suit while I'm like leading worship. And like, this is, like looking back on it was very dumb. Obviously. And so then like, I'm just leading the next song, like nothing happened. Like we finished and just go straight into the song, like nothing happened. And I don't even know everything that was going on around me. Like it was so many things. I heard about half of it when I was like, after it was over. Because basically all the like interns just started running around and doing a bunch of stuff. Like 2 of the guys started doing a push-up competition, like front and center at the like foot of the stage. There was a guy, like I'm like playing in the middle of the song, dressed up as a gorilla, and a Nerf dart like flies over my shoulder. And I'm just like the whole time I'm like face down, like just playing. I have my earbuds in, so I can't hear anything, so I don't know what's going on. But like all of a sudden, this Nerf dart just flies over my shoulder, and one of the interns was walking around with like one of those big Nerf rifles, and he like set it on a student's shoulder to like stabilize. I mean, they're not heavy, but to like stabilize, and then shoots it at me, and then this guy one of them had this like device that made the sound, like, the screech sound of a fire alarm.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like a staccato, like, bah! And so he would just do that randomly in the middle of the song. And there were a lot of other things. So that's a very cringy.
What's like the mood in the room during this? Like,
I have no clue. I'm just like, get
you have
through the
ears
song.
in and you're on the stage.
I'm like,
and you're just
I'm like
sweating to death in your gorilla costume.
Yeah, and I'm just like down here, like just focusing on the keyboard. I'm just like, just get through the song.
Danny's like, I have to take 3 showers today now.
Yeah. Oh man. So
That's rough,
very
dude.
cringy moment.
Oh man, that is.
This was like very new into my career of leading worship, so I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
It feels like a miss. I wasn't there, but it just doesn't feel like it's accomplishing.
I don't even. Yeah.
No.
I mean, if you asked me to do that today, I'd probably say no.
Yeah, you'd be like, "This is look. I've
Like,
been
I'm
here
not-
before. This
I'm
is
not
a
doing
horrible idea." Man.
So very cringy moment
Yeah,
that probably did not work.
Scott, what you got, man?
As Danny's sharing, what's going through my brain is
You have an idea for Awana.
yeah, that's right. 2 incidents that I just feel like they're too fresh that have just happened in the past month.
Oh no.
That I can't share them yet.
Oh, no.
Stuff
So
like
we'll
that
have to, yeah.
Never happens at Hazel's
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
tune in like 3 years from
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we might be able to share that. And then I was just thinking, as Danny was talking, that we're not wearing the same shirt.
Yes, Scott. Scott has this weird fetish with wearing so you're in ministry, you just have a bunch of ministry shirts and like that's all that you wear. I mean, if I'm looking in the room, you're wearing a shirt you got clearly like the SBC convention from the IMB. You got that shirt at the SBC convention.
Damn.
Yeah.
I got this shirt from camp 3 or 4 years
You get
ago.
a lot of free merch in
Like
ministry.
we have our closets are identical. You could go to any one of our houses and not know who's
You'll find like the
closet
same
you're in.
12 shirts.
So we showed up this morning.
Yes.
I was wearing
Scott
this
was
shirt. We
wearing
were wearing
the
the
shirt.
same shirt.
He's so
which is
proud
such
of
a win.
himself. He's so proud of himself when it happens. And all I'm thinking is he's not going to change before the podcast.
And I'm
gonna
wouldn't
have to
have.
go dig his shirt out of the closet.
But my shirt was smelly. So
I don't even want to know.
So
Is it just
apparently,
why was your shirt? I don't.
are we talking about hygiene on this podcast?
We weren't planning
We
on
do.
it. I am,
According
Is that
to you,
where
that's
we're
all we
going?
talk about.
So you're
That's all.
your daily
all I-
routine is I'm gonna wear my stinky shirt in, and then I'm gonna go home and eat lunch, and then I'm gonna put on the fresh. I don't
Yeah,
get
and
it.
apparently I grabbed the loudest possible shirt that I could find, which is actually maybe it's a cringy story because Danny, I think all of us have this shirt. We picked this up. This was a long time ago in Danny's life. So last year,
Yeah. Pretty early on in my life.
Yeah.
we went
it
to the
was like
Southern
20%
Baptist
of his life
Convention,
ago.
and
Yeah.
so they were handing these T-shirts out, and so this is downtown New Orleans, and so Danny puts it on the next day,
Mm-hmm.
and all I remember was we're walking downtown through, I don't know what street we're
That
on.
was
Bourbon
so-
Street?
It's probably Bourbon
Yeah, it's probably
Street.
Bourbon Street.
And so he's
Yeah.
wearing this T-shirt that, what does it say?
Meeting
needs changing lives, and there's like plenty of homeless people.
Like we're like
Everywhere we
literally,
go.
like you're having to like stretch your leg out to step over them,
And
and like
so-
these guys are like, "Hey man, like
And so they
you're
come
a
up-
billboard for you're
I
gonna
know,
help me."
They
right
come
now.
up to Danny,
Oh no.
and they said, "Hey, can y'all help?" And it was like, "No," and the guy's like, "What does your shirt say?"
Yeah.
I kind of felt for Danny in that moment.
I feel like the Southern Baptist Convention taking place in New Orleans is like it's just one step above them doing it like in Vegas. It's just
Yeah.
it's weird. Like
It is a weird.
But New
it's
Orleans was
weird.
great.
It's
New
definitely
Orleans
weird.
is an awesome city.
Yeah.
But it's like
every-
weird going like down Bourbon Street
Yeah.
afterwards to go grab
Wearing
dinner.
this T-shirt.
And you
Wearing
feel like
those
a
t-shirts.
you
Yeah.
feel like a joke. It's like, well, 4 Baptist pastors walk down.
And there's like,
Street.
and you're like walking down the street, and it's like somebody's getting arrested around the corner, and
Totally.
it's
It
like,
was-
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like that's just like we're just trying to go. Like I'm just trying to get some gumbo
Yeah.
for dinner, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we did,
It's-
and it was good.
It was very good.
So
Love
don't have what I can share presently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I ran into that. So we did a series on Wednesday nights a couple years ago called "Jesus Greater Than," and Mallory made me a shirt for it. And at Barton Creek Mall, like those guys that they usually they don't bother dudes. They bother girls because they're selling beauty products, and they're like at the kiosks, and they like try to get girls to come over and like try their lotion and stuff. So one of those dudes, he comes over and he's like, "What does that shirt mean?" And I was just like, I didn't even know what shirt I was wearing. Like I'm walking out of the Apple store holding like a computer I just bought for the church, and like he's like, "What's that shirt mean?" And I'm like, "What shirt am I wearing?" And then I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I'm like, obviously, like I'm gonna share what Jesus is with this guy. I ended up stuck with that dude for like an hour, talking to him about the most like crazy beliefs, because he called himself a Christian, but I mean he was closer to witchcraft. And I mean a great opportunity to have a Jesus conversation with the dude, but like it reminded me like, hey, if you're gonna wear a shirt like
I didn't have it as bad as
you
Danny.
better be ready.
Be ready for the conversation.
God's like, you're gonna wear a shirt that says Jesus greater than, like you better be ready to talk to some people about it.
That's right.
So my cringiest church story was the very first Sunday that I worked in full-time ministry in Illinois. It was a communion Sunday, and so first of all, just the style of communion that they do is cringe. They do a style called, y'all have probably heard of it, called intinction.
Oh yeah. That's where you
Yeah.
That's where you dip.
Yes.
What is
So-
that? Are you drinking the bread?
So here's how they did. This was their version of intinction. I don't know if there's multiple versions out there, but so they were all excited because like I came on staff and they were like, "Oh, you should participate in like leading this." And so they had lines going up the center aisle, and you could go both ways. And on each side, there's a person holding like a goblet. I don't even know what else to call it, like a giant glass bowl
Okay, yeah.
of grape juice, and then somebody holding like an uncut full loaf of bread.
Oh man.
Right?
Wow.
I guess in
know-
reverse order. The bread is
I
first.
think I know where this is
And,
going.
Yeah, so like they send me up and I'm holding the goblet, and the head of the elder board is next to me, and then like the pastor and another elder on the other side of the aisle. And like I've never done intinction before at this point. I'm like,
You've never intinct.
yeah, I've never intinct before. And so I'm just like, I don't understand how this works. And so I just do what I'm told. And remember, this is my first Sunday on the job. And the story has multiple levels of cringe. So the first part of the cringe is intinction. In the version they did it, every person grabbed and ripped their own piece of bread off, dipped their piece of bread in the bowl,
Man.
And
then
didn't take
took-
all their bread out of the bowl.
Oh, like
Oh, no.
like keep in mind, I'm the guy holding the bowl, so I'm the last one
You're the
that gets to participate.
I don't
You
want
don't
to
even
be
have to grab a piece of bread. Just scoop it out of the bowl.
Drink it at
Just
that
drink
point.
it. Yeah.
And we got to tell the lemonade game. You guys probably don't even know that story.
No.
Plenty of that goes down in Hazel students' lore. The lemonade game. We'll talk about that sometime. But
Not the
so
lemonade.
I'm watching like 100 people rip bread off and dip. Like if you're holding a piece of bread like this and you need to get it wet, like you're not, like your fingers are going in to the juice. Like there's no separation. And
Yeah.
so I'm just like
You're a
watching
witness.
everybody dunk their like who knows where they've been fingers. And like y'all know me, like I'm not like insanely germophobic, but I don't want your germs. Like I'm not interested in like sharing a drink with you. Like
Oh,
not
man.
You're
not-
decently germophobic.
Yeah.
decently germophobic.
Tell me this is at least
And-
Presbyterian wine and not Baptist wine
yeah.
to kind of deal
Wel-
with some of
Welch's grape juice.
No, if it was real wine, I might have just chugged the whole thing. So I watch this, and all I'm thinking is like, I have to eat this. Like I have to be the last. Like I get to take the last piece and have my communion. This is just a horrible moment of my life, and I can't freak out about it because it's my first day on the job. And so I'm panicking about that when this little lady, like probably 4'8", like tiny old lady with a cane, comes up, and so I'm on the right. You're the head of the elder board in this scenario.
Okay.
I'm this close to you, standing at the front of the church, and this lady gets this close. I mean, this close to his face. And so I can hear everything. And she goes, "You're a vile, terrible, evil man, and you're going to burn in hell for what you've done." And she just for like, it felt like 10 minutes. I'm sure it was 30 seconds. She rips into him about what an evil guy he is and how he's ruined their family's life. And I am just standing there with my jaw on the floor.
Oh, man.
And all I can think is, I'm sure, like my boss at the auto dealership loved me. He would give me my job back right now.
Yeah.
If
While you're standing there holding what's effectively a bowl of soggy cereal.
I am holding a science experiment that I soon have to consume.
What
part
happens
of.
when you leave bread and
I,
juice?
I am just like, what is happening right now?
Wow.
With this lady
It was
saying,
it was
"You are the
crazy.
spawn of Satan."
It was crazy, man.
Man,
It
with
was-
that, I feel like I have 5 more cringy stories
go.
that I still can't share. of being a
Like happened
minister
last
and
week?
being
Oh, no.
railed for you must be.
You okay, Scott?
working
Everything
for
going okay in your life, man?
These were
need some counseling?
Yeah, these were like
Got you.
these are like 4 ages ago for Danny and Danny's time frame.
Yeah. But they're just like buried in your subconscious.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You're very much making everyone watching feel like this is like
This is like last week.
Yeah. I gotta hold it. Hold it.
Wow.
Danny, you said you had another one. What's your
I have a
story?
couple. Okay, so we were I was playing with a band at it was like a kids camp, but it was like elementary school through middle school. And so like a buddy of mine, he was a middle school pastor, so he had a group there. So we were the band that they hired to do the camp. And the first night, like, worship is great. Like they sing super loud. It's a few hundred kids.
Yeah.
The speaker kind of towards the end of his message, he's like wrapping up. He kind of gives me the cue to come up and like I'm playing keys there, so like he gives me the cue to come up and just start like playing. Like I'm starting to play the pad, which if you don't know what it is, that's what the like hum that like comes up at the end of every message or sermon or like between songs. That's like that's the pad. So like I come up and I start playing the pad while he slows down and he starts talking very slowly, and it's like this big emotional moment. And he says, "All right, everybody, I want you to look under your chairs, and you're going to find under your chair, you're going to find a mirror. And I want you to look into that mirror. Look deep into that mirror. It's all about that person."
Oh.
And I'm like playing.
The keys stop, and then it's like,
What? Man, I'd rather be shot with Nerf guns in an ape.
And I just like
outfit.
look over at like the guy who's like leading the band, and I'm like, did he just say that? And then he like keeps going on this like rant. I don't even know what he said. And then afterwards, like we sing the song, like end the night. I drive home, come back the next day. And like first thing, so like we finish again the opening like 3 songs or whatever that we did, and he comes up on, and so like I walk over to the back of the room. I'm standing by my buddy who's the middle school pastor, and the speaker comes up on stage, and the first thing he says is, "Who's it all about?" And then a bunch of the kids yell, "Jesus!" and he says, "It's
Praise
about
the Lord.
you."
Praise the Lord for the little ones.
The guy just says, "It's about you." And me and my buddy are just like looking at each other like, no.
When the students that you're teaching are like, what?
I think the kids got that one right. And like, I don't even remember. It was such a like train wreck too, because you just spent like half the message talking about a fishing story that like, you ever hear like a preacher who's like shares this long story that doesn't go anywhere and like never actually relates to the message?
That reminds me of an intern I had one time who only talked about being a D1 athlete.
Yeah, he's like
and
talking about
nothing else.
every hurdle that he goes.
Yeah.
I love you, Josh.
How many?
Um,
Oh.
Yeah. But he just talks about a fishing story. And then here's the other thing too. So like at the end of one of the, I think it's the first evening also, at the end of like the last song, when it kind of wraps up, like we're still kind of playing while the guy is supposed to come up and then he's supposed to kind of do announcements. The guy who's running the camp, so not the speaker. So he's in a boot. So he's like riding around on one of those like, one leg scooters, that you kind of ride around on. And it's a pretty steep ramp to get up onto the stage. So we're like playing, like I'm playing at the end of the song, and I like look over to the ramp and see the guy like wheeling up. And all you hear while he's wheeling is like it's really squeaky. So you just hear this like loud squeak going all the way down the room while we're like while we're doing the last chorus of Great Are You Lord. And he like makes it halfway up the ramp and starts going backwards. And we're like, oh no, he's not going to make it up. He eventually, he wheels himself up on stage. He takes a microphone. And then like we just finished, the song's over, like this worship moment just ended, and like the worship stuff was great, like the atmosphere was great, the kids were like super into it, and then he grabs the mic and he's like, you better not pout, you better not cry, or you better not pout, I'm telling you why.
Where's this
and then
going?
like
What month was this in? Was it even Christmas?
It was in the summer. And then instead of the like Santa Claus line, he says some kind of line about like if you're outside like your cabin late at night, the security guards will find you and grab you. I don't even remember how he said it, but that's what he did, and I'm just like, where are
sleeping.
we? And then the last part is like the last night, like we're still doing this for some reason. The last night, we're like, we finish all of it, like all of it's over. And they do the whole thing where they like break out into like groups, and it's a handful of churches that are here. So like they go to different spaces for like a reflection or like a, kind of small group time. And the guy on the scooter, like their church are the ones that are like in the worship space. Mm-hmm. So we like the band, like we got to pack up our gear and we got to go because we have church. Then I think it was a Saturday. So we got to like pack up and head back for church the next morning. So we're just waiting in the back of the room for them to kind of wrap up. And what proceeded to happen, the only way I could explain it is they had the students just sit there and tried to like force a conversion out of it was so bad. And the guy was like talking, he's like, if anybody wants to give their life to Jesus, we're just going to sit here right now silently. If any of you, like just all you have to do is just come up here. If you want to give your life to Jesus right now, just show up.
We're
and
not
then
going
like
home till
one
this
by one,
happens.
the leaders were like, you can give your life to Jesus right now. We can stay right here all night. And we're all like, please don't. Like, I got to pack up my keyboard and I got to go home. It's like an hour drive.
Yikes.
And yeah, then like one of the leaders, like, I don't want to make fun of this if this is legit, but the atmosphere felt very insincere. So one of the leaders started like going on about how, like, this is a leader, like an adult in the room, going on about how this camp changed their life and about how like it just like transformed everything in their life, and like started bawling also. And like again, I don't want to make fun of it if it's legit, but the whole thing just felt like we're just trying to force these kids to convert. So anyway, very awkward. And like we're just sitting in the back of the room, like the band, we're just sitting back there like, I just want.
I mean,
want to pack
if nothing
up.
else, and it's because that could have been legit, but like everything else was like overplayed, and programmed to the point where like anything authentic feels,
even if it was authentic,
and
the vibe of it just like ruined that.
That's tough.
Whatever moment could
altar
happen.
call that never ends.
That is tough.
Are we talking altar calls?
I've feeling.
Man. We're doing the question that everybody wants to ask: is Greg and Danny, are they Calvinist? No. We're not. Maybe a future episode.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I'll put that one on the list. So the church that I grew up at, my dad's still a member there, and they had their 100th anniversary shortly after Mallory and I got married.
Wow.
And I did not attend the church at that point. Mallory and I were at a different church, but it meant a lot to my dad for his family to come back to the church we grew up in. And so as to honor my dad, we went. And I should have known, because like this church, you would love this church, Scott. They're very long-winded, like that's just their thing. And Scott holds the record for the longest sermon.
I got jokes too. I got jokes.
And I hold the record for the shortest sermon, because one time I preached and skipped half my notes unknowingly and preached for like 17 minutes, which was pretty rough. So Mallory and I, we go and we're sitting, and like I'm expecting it to be long because it's like a special service for their 100-year celebration and stuff. And we're sitting there, and I start looking at the bulletin. They invited every living staff member that had worked at the church ever to come and give a sermon.
Oh,
I mean, there was like, I don't know how many, but it wasn't only 4. There was,
I mean, 100 years, like
this. So they had, the local grocery store had like a catering service, and they had brought in food, and everybody's going to eat lunch in like the basement of the church and stuff. It was a 4.5 hour long, 4.5 hours of just different guys coming up and preaching. And I mean, like, no like music breaks in between, or anything to even break it up. And I get in other cultures that like they put us to shame and have like 10-hour long services. Like I'm like a like Neanderthal American. Like I'm like, I am gonna die. I have to get out. This is awful. 4.5 hours goes by. It's like now like 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
The lunch was supposed to be at 12:30. Everything's ice cold.
Oh, man.
It was terrible.
Man,
But churches
a marathon.
Churches think a lot of themselves sometimes, and we probably shouldn't take ourselves so seriously. Which is honestly one of the things I love about Hayes Hills is we can make fun of ourselves and tease ourselves. Scott won't share all of his cringy stories about working here, apparently, even though he has a lot. But
maybe not all of them are from working here. First of all,
it's just it felt implied, and that was the
the way you said it was like.
And maybe it's a good word and warning for going into ministry is not the easiest thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great transition. And in fact, we're going to be talking about ministry. I know we have students in our student ministry right now that have told me that they are considering whether or not they're called into ministry. We got Josh, who's at Liberty, preparing to go into student ministry, who was a student here, which I'm super grateful that God's given us a space where students feel like they learn and grow and can see the value of spending their life serving Him in vocational ministry, and that's a really cool thing. And so I thought we would just spend some time talking to the students listening about that specific topic. And so first question is, why should young people consider going into ministry? You have to say something or it's awkward.
Because it's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just thinking of kind of Paul's words to Timothy of encouraging him as a young man that he who desires to serve the church in a capacity like an elder desires a good thing, and so I think it's commendable. I think it's a commendable sort of a thing, and just as you're mentioning, maybe some of this topic is just spurred on by just students that are thinking through some of those things, which I think it's a really great and healthy marker of health. That they see you leading student ministry, and they think, you know what, that's a great and godly example of doing ministry, and they're at the age where they're thinking, how am I going to direct my life? And so I just see it as a great encouragement that there'd be more and more people asking the question of, I see this, I have a great example, and maybe this is where the Lord would be leading me too. Yeah. So I think it's a good encouragement and something the Bible encourages us to think through.
Yeah. And I think there's also just a big need. Even nowadays we find that there's just a huge demand for pastors and for people to go into ministry across any form of ministry. Like, even for me as a guy without a seminary degree and with decently little experience comparatively going in, like stepping out of college and getting a job even at a church like Hayes Hills 10 years ago, that's probably not as feasible. But nowadays there's just a huge demand. I don't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but the average age of pastors and of people in ministry is pretty up there. So there's especially a need for young people who are stepping in and who are saying, you know what, I want to pursue this. And Ephesians says that Christ gave the apostles, the prophets, the shepherds, and the pastors, the shepherds, and teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry. So we're all called on some level, like everyone in the church is called on some level to work in ministry. Whatever that might look like, whether that's volunteering in spaces or whether that's just being faithful in the spaces that you are. But based on that, it would make sense that some people within that should be stepping into that position of saying, you know what, maybe I'm called to doing this full time. And so I think it's a healthy question for anybody to ask. Yeah. Even for me, I ask all the time, like, is the Lord, like, God, are you calling me even to missions? Are you calling me into ministry capacities that are different than what I'm doing right now? John Piper even said that even at his age, he still prays every year of, God, would you call me to go in mission? And so I think for all of us, like, we should be regularly asking, are you calling me to do this full time in these different capacities?
So I don't know that to your original question as well, I don't know that I'd want to encourage everyone sure. Into ministry. And that kind of begs the question. I mean, are there instances or ways in which you might see, there's, if people are coming and asking, should I pursue ministry? Maybe that's a no, or maybe that's a maybe, or maybe that's a yes. And how we might think through that, or how others might think through that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I had no idea that was a pursuit I could follow after when I was like a junior, senior in high school. I was graduating high school, and my youth pastor grabs me and he says, do you want to do an internship with me this summer? And I was just like, so I can keep hanging out at youth group, which is fun, and I like doing that, and you'll pay me now? Like, yeah, I'm in. But to your point, like that was a season where God really had to break me in a lot of ways and show me a lot of things about myself that had to change to prepare me to pursue that path. But that was a huge sign for me, was just having godly people in my life who looked at me like, hey, like, who you are and the way that you pursue the ministry of the church and your attitude towards it, just to me leans towards you might want to consider whether or not this is what God's calling you to do with your life. And it's really cool to see students discovering that on their own, because I didn't discover it on my own. Like my youth pastor kind of drugged me into it and opened my eyes for me because he saw it in me. And so when we see students that have that attitude, it's one of the reasons we created an internship in student ministry, right? So that we could help encourage Josh and hopefully whoever the next person that comes along is that wants to pursue ministry. And so if you're a follower of Jesus, if you enjoy being a part of the church and the things of the church, I think it's worth asking the question. And pursuing and seeing what God might have for you. Danny pointed out there's a huge shortage in people doing ministry, and that should concern you. And I think your 10-year estimate's correct. I think 10 years ago there wasn't this like eye-opening like need of like, wow, churches can't fill these positions, and we see the average tenure of guys in ministry, people in ministry being really short, and
huge turnover.
And we have to ask the questions, why? And I think that leads us to our next question of, why should young people not consider going into ministry? What do you think would be like the things you would caution someone who's really interested and you'd want them to have eyes wide open? What would you say to them? Yeah,
I think, first of all, I mean, in 1 Timothy, Paul is encouraging Timothy, hey, don't be too hasty in laying on of hands. And part of that conversation is a question of, are you ready to step into the work of ministry? It can seem really glamorous to basically be a professional Christian. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of hard things you're going to run into. There's a lot of things that are going to be challenging. And so are you rooted in the Bible? Like, is that something that you have locked down? Like, are you spending time with God regularly? Do you see yourself growing in different spiritual disciplines and as well growing in different fruits of the Spirit, because you might be challenged in different ways?
And it has to happen in that order for it to be healthy.
Yeah.
I've shared this with our students before, but there was a time in my life where I thought, well, God's calling me into ministry, and that's awesome, because when I get a job in full-time ministry, it's gonna be so much easier to like live out my faith and like read my Bible, because I'll be paid to do it. And that's a fallacy. It's not true. Ministry creates a lot of challenges that are unique to working in the field.
And preparing a sermon is not the same as spending time in your Bible with Jesus at the end of the day. But then I would also say there's just as much, I think, like there's a need for people out in the world who love Jesus, who are on fire for him, and who are out in the secular world. If everybody who loves Jesus and is like really passionate for him steps into the church and into ministry, that means you don't have people out in like the accounting office or in that finance company or out in the like whatever other workplace who are out there functionally like evangelizing, sharing the gospel. It's a challenge for me because
a guy named Louis Giglio started Passion Ministry. He has an awesome illustration. He says, imagine you're just really passionate about designer jeans, and he uses that illustration to walk through. We'll use that passion to honor and glorify God and bring people to him. So you're called to ministry either way. The answer is yes. Are you called to vocational ministry? That's something you would have to work through.
And the challenge of evangelism is that like all my coworkers, right? All my coworkers are believers and love the Lord.
Yeah.
And so for me, sometimes I'm kind of jealous of like my wife and other people who are around non-believers in their workplace.
Spend all of our time in Christian circles. Like you have to be super intentional to get outside of a Christian circle.
Yeah.
What you think, Scott?
Yeah, it's a difficult prospect. I mean, just to underscore some of what you guys are saying, that I mean, the reality is, I think universally when Scripture talks about, hey, am I called? It's so I think the Greek, all the different uses of kaleo, it's speaking to Jesus' call to follow him. And so all of us, every single Christian, is called to work out their salvation in a way that is following Jesus. And so Scripture is not answering the question whether I'm going to be a butcher, baker, or candlestick maker, or whether I'm going to be a music minister, or whether I'm going to be in vocational ministry, or whether I'm going to be a lawyer. It leaves that open. And so the interesting kind of history of call is kind of a Reformation kind of a origin, and it largely just kind of looks at that practically of external things, whether you're called externally and internally, that there has to be a recognition, kind of like Paul to Timothy, there has to be a desire. And I think that's really important for vocational ministry because of kind of some of the crazy stories we alluded to, it just gets really tough. You got to be able to make it. I firmly
believe if God didn't put a call on my life for ministry, I would not have survived some of the battles that I've gone through.
I think that's
been some rough seasons that if God wasn't behind it, pushing me, and then it would have been too easy to just walk away.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And I mean, even in my own story of path towards vocational ministry, I had kind of heard the Spurgeon adage that if you can do anything else in life, do that. But if you can't do anything else and it feels like this is the only thing that you can do, well, then maybe you're called to pastoral ministry. And I just thought, well, there's lots of other things that I can do. And so I didn't even consider pastoral ministry or vocational ministry for the longest time, until God just used in his timing and in my life to make it as a person that was really reluctant to it. There began to have that sort of internal, when we talk about external and internal, just a very strong internal. But I do think external is often neglected when people are considering whether they are supposed to pursue this avenue or another avenue.
And churches can be hard places to work. If you're considering vocational ministry and thinking maybe someday I could do that, I would just encourage you to really, really plug in to the church you're at, and not just meaning like, oh, like you're helping with the kids here, or you're hanging out, picking up chairs. I mean, talk to your pastors or your leaders and see if you can build a relationship where they can mentor you and let you see just some of the realities of church. Because there's a political aspect, like there's politics that are not fun in church. You have to handle relationships. You have to deal with, trying to love people through bad decisions and their hard times. And then there's moments that will destroy you when you love someone that you're working with and they make a decision that, I've worked with multiple students over the years who have made one or two really bad decisions that explode their life. Things that are going to stick with them. And if you think like, oh, well, I'll pray for them and help them through that, and I'll just go home and be cool. Like you don't go home and just forget about that at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I do think there's more than just that sort of, okay, I have a desire for, I mean, and this could go to any sort of profession that you might be thinking through. I mean, when you're thinking through high school age and college age kids, they're in that phase of what am I going to do with my life? Yeah. And I think often in college, what can often happen is somebody's desires and passions for something don't necessarily line up with their skill set. Yeah. So you may have somebody that's like, well, internally I feel super called to be a music minister, but they can't hold a tune.
Yeah.
And I just think those things there has to be.
He's talking about me.
There has to be some overlap of a Venn diagram where you have. I think for pastoral ministry, you have to have that desire there, and it can't just be, oh, I gotta put food on the table. I think there has to be the internal, but you also have to be observed and go through what Greg's talking about. That's why we have internships. That's why somebody comes to Greg and says, hey, I'm interested in ministry, and well, let's see how you do. Let's put you in this sort of a group and give you some exposure and see what the Lord's doing.
And I think when I think of, like even my process of stepping into ministry, which was only like last week, as you guys will joke.
Seems accurate.
When I think of my process of like first jumping into ministry and processing through the call and all that stuff, I just saw a lot of opportunities to step into ministry, and even some spaces where there might not be opportunities, but I had conversations in those spaces and just found every chance that I could to step in and serve. Is there a Bible study that doesn't have someone teaching it? I will, like, here I am. I will step in and figure it out and jump in there. Are there spaces where people aren't leading worship? Like, I will jump in. And so like the result was like me being me and just kind of going all out at it. Like there was a period of time where I was leading worship 7 times a week, because there were lots of different spaces, and that's very extreme. I couldn't do it today. I drank a lot of tea during that time. But it was, I just want to like surround myself with all these opportunities and chances where I can step in and serve. And then in the midst of that, I can figure out a lot of the answers to those questions that Scott's bringing up. Is the internal desire there? Is it just something that like, hey, like I enjoy doing this like once a week? Or is it something that like, I'm very passionate about this and I love doing this? Is it something that like I'm actually gifted in or not? And I had people that were around me that could speak into it and say, no, like I could see the Lord moving you in this direction. Yeah. And so just like be hungry for opportunities. And then in the midst of that, also surround yourself. Like anybody who I knew who was either leading worship full time in different ministries, or other people in ministry that I was surrounded with, like I would grab coffee and just pick their brain about everything. Yep. What does it look like to be in ministry practically? And then as that happened, the Lord started to bring more of that confidence and that clarity of both the internal and the external calling into ministry.
Yeah. We're pretty much out of time, so I want to leave with this kind of parting advice. If that's something that you've thought about pursuing, number one, if you haven't talked to a leader in your church about it, do it. Number two, if you're not plugged in enough at your church that you see the hard things and you see that your church is not perfect and that there are some things that they struggle with or things that are hard to walk through, you need to think through like how do I change my approach to my time in church where I can really get a feel for church life and what it's like. Because I think that a lot of guys like myself as a teenager that just thought youth group was fun and then pursue ministry, they just kind of think, well, I'll just go to Bible college and then I'll work with teenagers and it'll be fun. And like 80% of it is that. It's awesome. You get to tell teenagers about Jesus. You get to do a lot of fun events and fun things and fun games. But a lot of guys, the reason I think they burn out is because they haven't really invested the time into what does it take to be a minister or a pastor and love people through all circumstances and be on staff at a church where I'm not just dealing with teenagers. I have parents and elders and other people that I have to make sure I have a good relationship with and foster those relationships. So plug into your churches. Even if you don't pursue ministry, you're going to be better for it, because you should be a part of the life of your local church. You should be a member of a church. You should be active in more than just coming and hanging out in youth group or your Sunday school class or whatever it may be. As you become an adult and you are a part of a church, you should be a part of the life of the church as a whole. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us for the STUMIN podcast. If you are thinking about pursuing ministry, you can reach out to any one of us, and we would love to chat with you about it. Y'all stay close to Jesus. We'll see you next time.